and Kanpur is a funny place. I don't know if anyone's been to Kanpur, but I grew up in a neighborhood, neighborhood where on like a few houses down used to live the biggest drug dealer of UP. So seeing like guns and swords, people being threatened by them was common everyday thing, right? I remember very clearly. We grew up one day with kids playing in the park, and there were two guys running after a child with a sword because there was some property dispute happening. It was very, very common. We would have bhaiyas that we would play with, and they would come back stabbed in their hands, etc., because of college, right? I don't really think I knew what I wanted to do with life, and I think there'd be maybe 1% of people in our batch, maybe 2%, who knew very clearly what they wanted to do. Like the moment you provide a safe environment with a bunch of smart people in the room, you've almost solved half the problems anyways.
Sure.
Yeah. Whether we like it or not, no matter how smart we are, a lot of it happens because of the money. In fact, I was at another talk, and we were talking about, why can't, let's say, hugely technical startups come out of IITs, right? So just like they come out of, let's say, a Harvard, Stanford, or a Berkeley. I think a lot of it just has to do with money. Ours was also the year, 97 was the year when the ID papers got leaked. So we had exams twice.
Yes.
So we had that to bond on, and every IIT had a different way of making up.
Sure.
So for us, we had no chuttis that year. So Diwali, etc., we were all here.
Yes.
And I remember, some of these weird incidents. I remember that Diwali, the mess was closed. And so 6 p.m. we decided कि दुकानें बंद हो जाएंगी, let's go find some food, because there's no food, right?
Yeah.
KL is closed, our hostel mess is closed. So I think बाहर 605 or 615, 10, whatever bus number, we all get in the bus and we roam around Delhi, and there's nothing freaking open. So we come back home, come back to the hostel, empty stomach. Those are some of the memories. Or first time, like when our seniors. So some of our seniors are also very, very close friends, and politics in the hostel, and discovering, like, we all stood for elections in the first year. All of us lost. And, discovering this is not our cup of tea.
Yes.
Look, the Tata Group, and one of the big reasons why, they took a majority stake in us, and we also really like partnering with them, is that on a value ecosystem basis, we don't I don't think there's anyone in this country who's a better fit for our values.
Sure.
Right? They are big thinkers, deep thinkers. They're very persistent about problems as well, right? They're not in it for profit.
True.
Not always. A lot of the things they do just come from the goodness of like humanity, I would say. And then 1MG happened actually accidentally, because I was at Health Card, and at Health Card we had this small project which was not nutrition but more in the health, which was actually showing very, very positive early signs. It was one of the largest, like it was mostly a content platform at the time, but it was very, a lot of people used to come read content about, medicines, their side effects, uses, substitution, etc. And so we decided, Prashant and I decided we'll probably step out, see if this can become a business by itself.
Yes.
And basically, the idea was to build a content and commerce platform on top. So it happened because, not because I really wanted to do something in health. There were 2 or 3 things that were that checked out. One was that the impact that you can make is huge if you're touching health. The second was there was already like a lot of I would say early signs that this could be interesting. And third, I felt as a technologist, there's like really fascinating problems to solve in health, right? The data health angle had not been touched. Sure. And there was this hope that someday we'll get there. So that was why we did 1MG. I was always a good student. I think, grew up in, again, very lower middle class background. My dad was an entrepreneur who struggled with businesses all his life.
Sure.
And my mom, I remember very clearly, I think I cannot underplay my mom's influence, because she was a go-getter, and she was like, we may be in whatever educational or financial environment, but you have to do well.
Sure.
And education was the only ticket out, I would say, to do well. And the one thing that she kept emphasizing all my life was that kuch bhi kar lena, don't do business, right? Because she came from a business family. She'd seen a lot of her family side of the business go away due to disputes, changing conditions. And then my dad, who left whatever, he had a job in the army. He left that to start his own businesses, and then went through a string of, I would say, not failures exactly, but not successes either. And it was a tough environment for her, socially. In absence of what is your life's calling, right? You try and make decisions that are, let's say, most risk averse.
Sure.
Right?
Hi folks, welcome to this episode of Dil Se IIT Daily podcast. Today we have the honor of sitting with the co-founder of 1MG, Mr. Gaurav Agarwal, who is a graduate from the batch of 2001 from the stream Computer Science. Thank you for agreeing to sit with us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
So what of these how do I put it? Which of these tags do you associate with the most?
Okay. Which tags?
So you're a computer science graduate, or IITian, or founder of 1MG.
I think they're all different, meaning computer science probably the least, because the broader the tag, the more likely it is to stick. So if I introduce myself, usually introductions are, I went to IIT Delhi. I'm from Kanpur. Went to IIT Delhi in '97, 2001. Or they're like, I'm Gaurav. I co-founded 1MG. So I would say computer science, it typically doesn't come up. I try to not even mention it.
Okay.
Because it's. I don't think it's really relevant in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, I mean, IIT sure, and 1MG absolutely.
Yeah, but a lot of folks, obviously from top ranks, choose to go ahead with that. I'm sure you must have gotten good rank at that time.
Yeah. Meaning, look, again, you have to think about when you get a rank. Like IIT is a very rank counseling department, and I think that I was 17, maybe 18. I dropped a year when I got through IIT. I don't really think I knew what I wanted to do with life. And I think there'd be maybe 1% of people in our batch, maybe 2%, who knew very clearly what they wanted to do. And in absence of what is your life's calling, right? You try and make decisions that are, let's say, most risk averse.
Sure.
Right? So most risk-averse decision is that you get the best department your rank can offer. I fortunately had a rank that could get me computer science, anywhere. So I basically went to counseling. I think I filled out maybe all the, IIT Bombay, Delhi, Kanpur. IIT Delhi was my first choice. I got it. And, I feel very fortunate because I know a lot of my batchmates who came to computer science. Some of them became, let's say, grads, MBA, investors, private equity, etc. I feel really fortunate that, I continue to be super excited about technology in general and, computers and other stuff in particular.
Yeah.
So lucky, happy stance for me. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you could actually take us through the journey of how Kanpur to Delhi journey happened.
Yeah. No, Kanpur to Delhi journey was interesting. So, I was always a good student. I think, grew up in, again, very lower middle class background. My dad was an entrepreneur who struggled with businesses all his life.
Sure.
And my mom, I remember very clearly, I think I cannot underplay my mom's influence, because she was a go-getter, and she was like, we may be in whatever educational or financial environment, but you have to do well.
Sure.
And education was the only ticket out, I would say, to do well. And the one thing that she kept emphasizing all my life was that kuch bhi karna, don't do business, right? Because she came from a business family. She'd seen a lot of her family side of the business go away due to disputes, changing conditions. And then my dad, who left whatever, he had a job in the army. He left that to start his own businesses, and then went through a string of, I would say, not failures exactly, but not successes either. Sure. And it was a tough environment for her, socially, economically, to manage the house, right? So her message was very clear. You have to be a good student, and you have to do a job, find a job, be happy. And so IIT Delhi was my first choice. IIT Bombay was my second choice. IIT Kanpur was my third choice. Sure. And I was very clear that I would probably get one of the two. My mom was very unhappy. She wanted me to, think about food at home and laundry. But yeah, and I was very happy to come to Delhi. It was freedom. It was sort of like growing up finally. So it was super exciting.
So, what sort of relationships could you see forming at that time, which you think have sort of stayed on?
Yeah, look, I think, but my closest friends are actually all my IIT buddies.
Yes.
And, I have, I don't think I can even begin to describe how valuable those relationships are, because we were all of us, 17, 18, 16, maybe, in a new environment, which is just hyper competitive, right? You come in, and I remember I was one of the last guys to get into computer science at IIT Delhi. And so the first week of hazing or ragging that I had was, my seniors kept telling me that I'm going to flunk because I'm the lowest.
Yeah.
And they said that you think the others are not smart, so you're going to flunk, you're not going to get a job, etc. Right? And it happened with all of us.
Sure.
So, forming these relationships with people at the time where you are cooperating, competing at the same time. Ours was also the year, 97 was the year when the ID papers got leaked. So we had exams twice.
Yes.
So we had that to bond on, and every IIT had a different way of making up.
Sure.
So for us, we had no chuttis that year. So Diwali, etc., we were all here.
Yes.
This batchmate of mine and I, we had the first jobs together. Actually, three of us. So we had the jobs together. We were roommates.
Yeah.
And then for a long time, he and I shared passwords of our brokerage accounts. Because the deal was that if he bought something, then he would buy it for me. And if I bought something, I would buy it for him. Right? And we didn't want to lose out on either one. So we do our own research and then buy. And when I was buying, we were just buying $1,000 stuff.
Sure.
Right? So that's the second. And the third is our seniors, people that we were the closest to.
Yes.
Sort of, they were just funny bunch. So that's the third group I would say that we're close to. And, relationships for life.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I have two varying set of questions right now. So I want to also explore about your time as to how it went by from first year to fourth year.
Yeah.
What was the transition like? And the second part was obviously to do with your current venture. But I think we'll stick to the first.
Yeah. So look, the first year was relatively easy, right? Because you do courses with the whole batch, right? So there's 400 odd people, and just the fact that you got a really good rank in IIT ensures that you get a certain number of grades. So I did really well in the first year.
Yeah.
And all the subjects were it's easy peasy kind of stuff. But second year onwards, oh my God, it was insane. No matter how hard you worked, the best you could do was a B or an A minus, right? So it was stressful. It was stressful because the course material got really complex. We got a flavor of that. I remember our math course was MA111. And even though I like math, I realized for the first time that I have no skill set to do abstract math, field and groups, and like I couldn't understand anything. And then I had friends for whom it was like, second nature. I think third year got more fun.
Yeah.
I remember second year we had a course in second year, I think, in discrete math, which was an open time course.
Sure.
So we all sat there for like maybe an hour and a half and then just walked out. Okay, we don't know what happened. So, there were those stories as well.
Sure.
Third year was, I would say, relatively easier because we knew what we wanted.
Yeah.
I had a lot of interest in like applications, so computer graphics and vision became my area of focus.
Sure.
And then fourth year was chill, I would say. A lot of fun with BTech projects and just, deepening of relationships, deepening of relationships with professors. So I worked a lot with Professor Prem Kalra and Professor Banerjee. Some on the operating systems front, but mostly on the vision and graphics front.
Yeah.
And then, finding people that you did projects with repeatedly over time because, you just enjoyed it.
What is the key common thread that you think is still intact from your years at IIT?
Yeah, just maybe two or three, I don't know if they are threads, but two or three themes, right?
Sure.
One is, I would say, a lot of innate belief in our capabilities, right? Just being here, like getting hit on every day,
Yes.
Working with people who are really smart, getting grounded and being both supported and, beaten up, right?
Yes.
I think there's a lot of just innate belief in capabilities that hold you in good stead, especially when you're down, right? When you're down, then this feeling comes back that, maybe you can survive anything. And, maybe you just haven't thought hard enough about what the answer is.
Sure.
Right? That's one. I think the second is probably just crazy amounts of ambition to some extent, right? And it may differ for different people, but for me, I feel that not only can we solve most problems, not all, but I also feel that we can probably go achieve, in all of our friends, IIT friends also, right? I think we can do a lot of stuff that IIT has given us that confidence that we can do a lot of stuff, right? So we are ambitious, we are curious, we want to change things, we want to do big things, maybe do bigger things, right? To some extent, fearless, maybe. Like my co-founder is super fearless, even more than I am.
Right.
And I think that we feed off of each other, right? Fearless, depth, fearless, etc. Right? We each get excited about what the other person does. I feel today, I believe that 1MG can be probably India's one of the largest healthcare companies. And I feel that a lot of what we have done in terms of how to build a company with the right culture, values, ethics, be patient-centric, solve some of the hard problems that plague healthcare industry. I honestly think that, we can be a $10 billion company, a $15 billion company, right? So we're just very excited about that simple scale journey.
Yes.
The second is I'm very excited about problems that have not been solved, attempted so far, right? So, when we started 1MG, we used to talk a lot about data and health, right? How is health going to change, data going to change healthcare, right? In terms of outcomes, preventive health, etc. But if you look, at least in India and even globally, right, preventive health hasn't really matured, right? Data is not there.
Sure.
Right? So one of the other areas that I'm super excited about is just, how do we bring our passion, our might, our intellectual horsepower and persistence to just solve the data and health problem, right?
Sure.
We won't solve all of it, right? But we want to make a dent where we solve some of it, right? So we are doing a lot of work on taking data that 1MG has, right? And putting it together so that we can offer insights to customers that were not available so far, right? That help them lead better, more healthier lives, right?
Sure.
That's the second thing we are super excited about.
Sure.
Right? So these two things are keeping us all busy. Yeah.
I'm sure that you must encounter a lot of different stakeholders while going ahead with the vision that you just mentioned. Be it a mammoth like Tata's, and so many on-ground organizations, not-for-profits, etc. How do you see this panning out in the short and the long term?
Yeah, look, the Tata Group, and one of the big reasons why they took a majority stake in us, and we also really like partnering with them, is that on a value ecosystem basis, we don't I don't think there's anyone in this country who's a better fit for our values.
Sure.
Right? They are big thinkers, deep thinkers. They are very persistent about problems as well. Right? They're not in it for profit.
True.
Not always.
Fair.
A lot of the things they do just come from the goodness of like humanity, I would say.
Okay.
Right? And I think I really respect them for that. Right? So the thing that has really helped us in the last 2 years is just their consistency in vision, right? Where they come and say, hey, if you're not the largest healthcare company, I think you guys are aiming low, thinking small, right?
Sure.
And so I think from that standpoint, you need partners like them, who will give you the confidence, this is really what you need to aspire for, right? Then a lot of stakeholders are our customers, right? Who come back to us and say, hey, this is how 1mg changed my life. In fact, many, many years ago, it happened accidentally. I came across this, there was a Scora question. That what is the one app that has changed your life? Okay. And there were many answers to that question. And I feel really fortunate and grateful that one of the answers was 1mg, right? And there was this guy in a village in Karnataka who had talked about how his parents were retirees. They were spending some 5,000 rupees a month on medication. They found 1mg app. They looked up substitutes. They were able to cut their bills down by 2,000 rupees, right? He didn't know who the developers of this app were, why they built it, but he said, look, I just really want to thank you. You're a godsend, right? And for us, customers are probably our most important stakeholders, right? When they come back and tell us, hey, you changed, you made my life better for X, Y, and Z reasons, right? That keeps us going every day. And frankly, there's no bigger reward than a customer telling you that, you're really needed. I think that's the second. I think our team members, right? They are another really important stakeholder in partly from 1mg is a fleet of around maybe 4,000 or 5,000 people, blue collar worker, right? Enabling folks, let's say at that level, to have better lives, better aspirations, income, education for kids, etc. That's really motivating as well. That how do you, we have 5,000, 6,000 employees. If you take 4 family members, 20, 25,000 people are being supported through the 1mg ecosystem, right? That's a huge responsibility and a big part to be grateful for as well, right? How do we make an environment that is respectful, right? How do we make an environment that helps them achieve the best they can, right? So I feel one of the things that we feel is that our job is only to help people achieve their potential, right? And different people at different stages in life, at different levels of an organization, view this differently. So we just view ourselves as, let's say, an environment and a coach to help people move along, right? Our partners, etc. There's a lot of stakeholders, but I think to every stakeholder, the way we view this is we have a responsibility, right? And the way it has changed is, I think when we were small, a lot of our responsibility, we used to think of our stakeholders as people who we had smaller responsibilities to, right? Because our survival was most important. How do we make sure that we don't, let's say, we be honest with them, we be good with them? But today our responsibilities are bigger, right? How do we solve, for customers, for instance, how do we solve harder problems that makes their healthcare better, right? It's not enough to just do medicine delivery or diagnostics at home collection, right? Because sure, we solved that problem. We were innovators in that in terms of the quality of experience that customers received was unheard of before 1mg came into the picture. But what from here, right? How do we make sure that our partners, for instance, can make the best healthcare products in this country? And how do they can only do that if we can figure out how to help them find customers at a cheap price, right?
Sure.
How do we find a lot of people are building innovative healthcare services like diabetes management reversal, right? How do we help those companies find the right customers and find product market fits, right? So as we've gotten bigger, I think the weight of responsibilities has gotten bigger.
Sure.
That how do we just take harder, longer punts at the problem and solve harder problems to begin with? So that's what's changed.
Sure.
So having the courage to take the hit that comes with it, I think is really important.
So with n number of responsibilities that are taken up, right?
Yeah.
And you mentioned the weight is enormous at the moment, but at the same time, it also involves you wearing a lot of hats.
Yeah.
And for what we are taught in colleges, right? It's obviously, it has become multifaceted, multidimensional. What is the sort of key thing that you think should a student strive for to make sure that at least he is ready for all these hats?
You can never be ready. I think being ready is overrated.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think being ready is overrated. A lot of these things, it's like you can't prepare for the lion, right? You get a few skills. I think that, I don't know, let me take that back. I think there's a certain amount of readiness that can happen, right? But there is also a real danger of being over-prepared for something.
And what do you think is the institute's role in sort of making sure that happens?
I think the institute's role is ensuring that you have a safe environment, right, where you can fail.
Yeah.
Because, kids, we come in when we are 16, 17. Most of us have not failed before then.
Sure.
Right? So I think creating a safe environment where we can fail, where we can find a support network, where we can, given a problem, maybe actually find ways to solve that problem in more unstructured ways. To some extent, maybe the institute's role could be to find more unstructured things for folks to do.
Sure. What is your thought of it, given how connected that you are with your own folks?
Yeah.
And maybe also making these platforms for people.
Yeah, it's really important. I think, look, again, I'm hugely appreciative of the endowment efforts, etc., that happened. If we are to compete with the best in the world, then whether we like it or not, no matter how smart we are, a lot of it happens because of the money. In fact, I was at another talk and we were talking about, why can't, let's say, hugely technical startups come out of IITs, right? So just like they come out of, let's say, a Harvard, Stanford, or a Berkeley. I think a lot of it just has to do with money. Innovation is not efficient, right? And there's a different kind of, like today, the kind of problems we solve at 1mg, the audacity is very different than what we did before.
Sure.
Right? And the same is true. So I think that what this network hopefully helps us all do is it brings some of the audacity that we've learned in our personal lives, it brings it back to IIT and say, hey, we are going to help achieve great things together.
So we just end with the last rapid fire round.
Okay.
Where we just want to gauge your preference.
Okay.
So department or Aravali?
Aravali.
KLS or the mess?
KLS, of course.
A rendezvous or convocation?
Neither.
Okay.
Neither.
So library or the Vinti?
Vinti.
And Delhi or Kanpur?
Delhi.
Cool. I think that's about it.
All right.
Thank you for taking out the time.
Thank you so much.
Lovely conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.